It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
And a good afternoon to you. Welcome to The Oil Stream. Dustin Nielsen not here today. Well, he was here. He's still in the building, actually, but he's getting set to leave to head to the airport because he's got to go meet his supposed friend, Glenn Suter, out in Regina for dinner tonight as he's got a football game to call tomorrow for TSN. So I, Matthew Iwanyk, am holding things down here at EST Central Controls for the Oil Stream this afternoon. And joining me is Tom Gazzola at Gazzola's Palace, Palatius Palace, I believe some people would say, down in Ice District. You were fresh at the rink, Tommy. How was it this afternoon? Big news, Matias Ekholm on the ice.
Yes. Hello, Matty. Great job, as always, filling in for the big man. And hopefully everybody has a great long weekend. Now, listen, it was good news to see Matias Ekholm skating. And I'll remind people, too, that we've also seen Ryan McLeod, who's been on the ice with the main group. So that's been a good sign, too. And then we had Sam Gagner out there. So Ekholm being the big story, everybody wondering if the big Viking will be good to go. And he declared himself unfit to play tonight. He doesn't know if he's going to be ready to go by next Wednesday's season opener, but, you know, he's taking it day by day. At least he was pretty forthcoming with the whole thing and, you know, hip flexor. He says he's never dealt with an injury like this. He reminded everybody that he's stayed relatively healthy throughout the course of his career. But, you know, I think a few people were tweeting, asking if he was a full participant at the practice. He was not, but he was just out there with the group, putzing around type of thing.
So he was skating with the main guys, though.
Yeah,
like he wasn't part of like a
guys.
Yeah, he wasn't part of like some secondary group afterwards or anything like that.
Right. No. He was out there with the guys as they were going through the morning skate routine, but it wasn't like he was taking line rushes and preparing to play like one normally would in a morning skate. But he was out there kind of working on his own thing, sitting off to the side while the main group that was expected to play tonight or is expected to play tonight was doing their drills and getting ready for the game. But, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. It comes really late in training camp, and I think, you know, it might lead to more questions. Well, what's he going to be like when he does finally get out there, if it's next week? Is this thing going to linger on? He really didn't know because those were questions that did pop up, and he goes, I hope not. I've never dealt with this before, and I should be good to go. I'm anticipating everything being all right, but he's not sugarcoating it and saying, yeah, I'm 100%. Yes, it's going to be perfectly fine by the time I'm ready to go. But, you know, they're taking full advantage of the extra time. And then Woodcroft reminded everyone that he is probably least concerned about Matias Ekholm when it comes to him being ready and being able to amalgamate back into the group and catch up quickly.
Well, and also Jay's going to say that. He has to say that.
Yeah.
Like, what else is he going to really say?
Well, you know, there are some coaches that would be like, well, it's going to take time. We want him to get into the rhythm of things, learn the new wrinkles in our system. But Ekholm, it's not like he's been injured and not around these guys. He's been in the meetings. He's been keeping up to speed on what's going on, how the group is developed or progressing in the development of training camp as it is moved along here day by day. So he's been there. He just hasn't seen things live and in action until kind of today. And I mean, the guy's been around for what, a dozen years in the National Hockey League. So by the time he's ready to go, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think it's warranted that he's going to be ready to go, and it won't take him that long to get up and running. Obviously, time will tell, but as of now, he's done nothing to deserve any critique, criticism, or questioning, because the guy came in, as Jay Woodcroft also reminded us, cold to the team last year and picked up pretty quickly and on all the systems and really made an impact out of the gate.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question on Matias Ekholm, then you're going to see me off camera for a brief second. So just a heads up.
Oh, great. Not weird at all.
I got to quickly, I don't think we're up on the audio right now, so I got to quickly press play. But, okay, so let's say he plays next Saturday, not Wednesday. Is that big of a deal? Like, is one game, how much is he missing if he's back for Saturday?
Well, I think it'll lead to concern that he is not 100%, and people will, if he has tough nights, people will probably bring that up and say, well, I don't think Matias Ekholm is still 100% ready to go. So I think that'll be part of it, Maddie, is there will be concern that if he misses that first game and, he looks a little bit rusty, there will be people pointing that out. It's just natural. The fan base is very inquisitive. Everything's under the microscope here, as we know. But, I mean, I think he's going to be fine. I'll take him for his word. He doesn't come across or hasn't been the type of guy that BS's the media, and he doesn't play games. He just kind of straight up tells it how it is. So if they have to go 12-6 and they're without Ekholm on Wednesday, but then, they go and have him in the lineup and he has that extra week of practice and healing and he is good to go by next Saturday for the home opener, I think, and if he doesn't look out of place, especially, then, those questions or concerns will be, tamping down a little bit, which is fine. I mean, if in 2 weeks from now we're talking about the Oilers playing better in their defensive zone, I think Matias Ekholm will be a big part of it, and we'll forget that he missed all of training camp. But if their defensive zone play is still garbage like it was out of the gate last year, and Matias Ekholm doesn't look like the guy that finished up the season with the Oilers, then the chorus of concern will only grow and mount, especially if the team doesn't get off to a good start. But it should be getting off to a good start. Everything looks good. They have enough depth to live without Ekholm for a game or two, I think.
To those listening on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you've just joined us in that answer from Tom Gazzola. My mistake there. I didn't click start on the audio stream between the lock shop and this. So what you've missed is us talking about Matias Ekholm was on the ice today with the Edmonton Oilers, and he said he doesn't 100% know if he'll be completely 100% healthy throughout the season, how his body's going to react to him coming back, but he believes he should be ready to go, if not Wednesday, on Saturday. You can get in touch with us in the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999, or in the Nasty Chat on YouTube. What other notes did you take away from practice on morning skate down at the rink today?
Okay, well, we're going to see the top two lines and in their entirety as they've been skating generally in the practices, and that's McDavid between Kane and Brown, and then you're going to see Draisaitl with Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman. So that's notable because, those guys are getting their last bit of, work and tune-up going into the regular season. But we are going to see a bunch of guys fighting for that last spot on the roster. We are going to see Lavoie. We're going to see Peterson. And Adam Ernie's going to play. And we're also going to see Janmark at center and Ryan on the right side on the fourth line. However, it was pointed out that depending on where the faceoff is and that line's out there, if it's on Janmark's strong side, he's taking the draw. If it's on Ryan's strong side, expect to see him take that draw. That's interesting. And so that competition is going right down to the wire. We'll see who claims that last spot at forward. And then we were reminded, too, that Brad Malone is still up here, and he's still in the mix. And don't forget that Brad Malone did start the season with the Edmonton Oilers last year, played 10 games. And, I made the joke that his wife was giving him crap because he made the team and wasn't back in Bakersfield where they had just purchased a house and they were getting settled in. His kids were going to school. They were buying furniture, and he wasn't there to take care of all that because he made the NHL, which is kind of a funny note. But he's had an interesting camp, but, he scored that big goal against Calgary in overtime on the breakaway, which was a nice move. And, we're reminded by Jay Woodcroft today to not discount Brad Malone. But I think the guys that are playing tonight, especially Lavoie and Peterson, maybe Ernie to a certain extent, those are the guys really gunning for that last spot, unless they're so hell-bent and tied to Malone that they want to keep him up coming out of camp. Because he is such a good soldier. He is the captain of the Condors and a great glue guy, as they say. So he's been around the whole time, which is fantastic.
Do you look at this team like, is this the NHL roster for opening day then? For the most part?
Minus McLeod, who should be good to go. That was the other development, is McLeod should be good to go. He did speak to us, and he did take the morning skate, but he will not play tonight. So McLeod isn't playing. And,
what about like goaltending wise? Campbell's in net tonight.
Well,
do we read anything into that? Yeah. So this
we saw Skinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though this is the final preseason game, just give Skinner that little bit of rest, and Jack Campbell's, he's get this game, and then they'll make a decision from there.
And I do think that it will be Skinner on Wednesday night. I think he does get that first game. Now, if Campbell goes lights out and they say, "Oh, we got to give it to him," I don't think it's a big deal, and that's cool. I'm sticking with what I predicted going into Cap, saying I think Stuart Skinner starts the first game of the season. Has Campbell been better than Skinner this preseason? Yeah, he has been. He's seen way more workload in the games that he has played. He's made some outstanding saves. There's been some shaky goals that have gone in on Skinner. So I think Campbell has had the better training camp. Now, is it enough for them to declare that he is their number one or he is getting the start on opening night? I don't know. I mean, what if he has a bad night tonight? Then we know for sure Skinner's going in to start the season. And then this whole conversation goes away, right?
Well, I also think that in one sense, does it really matter who starts? Because they're both playing through that first week, are they not? Like,
I think so.
I think we all could look at that and go, if Skinner starts on Wednesday, Campbell was getting Saturday, or vice versa.
Yeah. Unless you're Ryan Rishaug and you just want to be a contrarian and create an argument for argument's sake, because we did have this conversation with Mark Spector. And Spec just threw out the hypothetical. He's like, what do you think happens for the first two games in goal? And I'm like, well, I think we'll probably see Skinner to start that first game, and then we'll see Campbell on Saturday. And Rishaug's argument was they're in the business of winning. They are going to play the guy that they think will get them the win. If they open up the season with Skinner, why wouldn't you play Skinner on the Saturday? And I said to Rishaug, I'm like, well, first of all, quit chewing my head off. I understand your rationale. I'm just telling you what I think could happen. And I think that they want both guys going, especially early, especially with 3 days between games out of the gate. And I think that they want to instill confidence in both of those guys, not have one of them sitting twiddling their thumbs for another extra week, right? So that's why I think both of those guys, we see them right out of the gate. One guy on Wednesday, one guy on Saturday. And again, I think Skinner on Wednesday, unless Campbell goes and lights it up. But then if Campbell gets that start on Wednesday, then I think it's Skinner here at home against the Canucks in the second matchup of the first two of the season. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They have kind of told us they want to make it as close to 50-50 in terms of starts as possible. And they have a two-guy system. And the league has moved to tandems. Now, do I think one of these guys will get more starts than the other? 100%. And not like a 43 to 39 type of thing. I think, one guy gets 50 and one guy gets 32. And I think at the end of the year, we're talking about Skinner getting the 50 and Campbell getting the 32. Could that change? Yes. Can one of these guys go into a slump? Yes. We saw it last year. But there's been a lot of good signs from Jack Campbell, Maddie. And, maybe Stuart Skinner hasn't had as great of a training camp or preseason as Campbell, but I still think that he's been solid and he'll be ready to go come game one if they call upon him.
Well, not to argue against Ryan Rishaug when he's not here and stuff, but I don't think the Oilers could truly know right now who their guy is at this point of the season that is going to give them the best chance to win. Because, sure, there's still going to be question marks of Jack Campbell from last season that's going to be in a lot of people's mind. He's been great through preseason.
Yeah.
But it is only preseason. And Stuart Skinner has had his struggles a little bit in the playoffs and through preseason, but he was great last year where, we all going into the playoffs knew he was the starter for the Edmonton Oilers. There was no question about it. So I don't think through this preseason you could sit there and go, yeah, going into Wednesday night's game, if you're Jay Woodcroft, you know exactly who's the best guy that's going to win you a hockey game. That there's no debate about it. Goalie A, whoever that is, that's going to give you the best chance, and he gets 2 games. Like, the only way I could see them maybe not splitting up the first two is, let's say Stuart Skinner starts on Wednesday and he puts up, let's say, a 45-save shutout performance or something like that.
Right.
That's maybe one where I think then the conversation will be, well, how do you not put him back in there after such a performance? But that's maybe like the only way I could see it. If Skinner starts that game, has a 920 save percentage, gives up only 2 goals, Oilers win, that's a great game. But I think you got to see what Jack Campbell could do with this team, and you throw him in there on the Saturday to see what he can do. And then you slowly throughout this season can morph with, your the tape of this season to go, okay, who is the best guy? And then it could lead into Rashog's statement, I think, later in this season where you then go with whoever's giving you the best chance. But it's the start of a new season. I just don't think with this team we could sit there and say, at this moment in time, Stuart Skinner, Jack Campbell, one guy is definitively going to give you a better chance of winning hockey games than the other.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I'm just looking at the schedule right now, Maddie.
It's
so
pretty,
you have
a lot of rest days.
You have a light, I was going to say, you have a very light start. That first week is quiet. I mean, 11th and 14th are your first two games. You don't play again till the 17th against the Preds because you're going on a quick roadie to Nashville and Philly. So we'll probably see splitting starts there. And then you come home for a Saturday game against Winnipeg. Then you're back on the road for one to many, which is odd. And then you come home for a couple. You got the Rangers, and then you have a couple days between games, and you get a Sunday start at 5 against the Flames at home. Let's even dip into early November. So on the Thursday, you got the Stars. On the Saturday, a 1:00 start against the Preds. Then you go on a quick, well, not a quick roadie. You go Pacific Division roadie to Vancouver. 2 days between games in San Jose, a day between games, and then you're playing in Seattle. And then you come home for 2. Like, this schedule out of the gate is very comfortable. Very comfortable. Like, you have a lot of gaps between games, and you'll have a lot of opportunities to. And I think because it's so comfortable, you'll probably want to make sure both goalies are active and both goalies aren't sitting around for too long. So that's why another point to why you want to keep a rotation going. And listen, I don't know that Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner, talking to them, getting to know them. I know Stu since he came to the team when he was drafted. Campbell, I've had the good fortune of just chatting with all season long last year, off the cuff, stuff that, away from the game, getting to know him a little bit. They don't strike me as guys that get too bent out of shape if they're not playing back-to-back games. Like, especially Campbell last year, like when he had to go through his stuff, obviously they needed Skinner. But then when Skinner was going through awaiting the birth of his first child, it was Campbell that was, and it didn't seem like it really rattled either guy. And that's a testament to their character and generally the type of people that they are. And I think, too, they're the most amicable goaltenders and the most amicable tandem I have seen in now 17 seasons of covering this hockey club.
Tom Gazzola, Matt Iwanyk with you here on the Oil Stream. Oilers game night tonight as they host the Seattle Kraken down at Rogers Place, which means we have an Oil Stream pregame show with Tom Gazzola later tonight right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com as well as the Edmonton Sports Talk YouTube channel. 6 o'clock, Tommy, you'll be getting going with that, and Joaquin Gage will be by for that one as well. And then we do it for real, both pre and post game, just like the Oilers do. Next Wednesday, we've got you covered all year with Oil Stream pre and post game coverage. Tommy keeping you posted 90 minutes before the game, and then he'll be on after each game, breaking it all down. You could text us 780-218-9999 in the Paris Jewelers inbox, or jump into the nasty chat. I do want to talk a little bit about tonight's game. Penner's Pancakes does get in the nasty chat. I like Ernie's game, just not sure he gets the nod over Lavoie and or Peterson. How do you see that? You said that they're the guys that kind of fighting for that one last spot. How would you power rank, if you will, who's got the inside track of taking that spot?
Between Lavoie, Peterson, and Ernie, right?
Yes.
That's what Penner's Pancakes wants to know. The fact that Ernie's on a PTO, I think, puts him at a disadvantage. I really do. And I've liked his game in general and his limited minutes. I mean, he's been abrasive. I like that he started a bunch of crap in that game in Vancouver when things were getting out of hand. I kind of appreciated that. And he scored a goal in that game. He's doing everything he can. But the problem is there's only 21 roster spots and there's only one real opening at forward because of the cap crunch. And that is no fault of anyone that's on the team except for management, because they backed themselves into this corner out of necessity. Sure. But this is the hand that they've dealt themselves, having to go with the 21-man roster, and they deserve full blame for that. So given that circumstance, I think that puts Ernie at a disadvantage. I think it comes down to Peterson or Lavoie, where Lavoie has the advantage is he's their guy. they've known him since day one when they drafted. They've watched him progress. They've helped him progress. And now he's starting to show fruits of that labor. And I think that they probably want to give him an opportunity. And I think that would give him the inside edge over Lane Peterson. Now, Peterson plays center. Okay. Peterson did chip in with a little bit of offense, scored a nice goal the other night against the Flames. Wranglers, pardon me. And he's looked okay. Like he's looked okay. He looks like a fourth line NHLer. And in his limited time in the National Hockey League with multiple clubs, he's been a bottom six guy, a fourth liner, if you will. I think that after tonight, especially if Lavoie has a good showing, even if Peterson has a good showing, even if Ernie has a good showing, I think Lavoie makes the club. And we don't worry about the waiver thing right now. And Peterson probably slips through no problem. And maybe they sign Ernie to an AHL or a two-way deal. That could happen. I mean, you can't have enough good veteran guys who are NHL capable, ready to be called up. I think depth is something in this organization. The cupboards have kind of gone a little bit bare and they need to restock the shelves. So, they brought in Ernie on the PTO. They have Caggiula down there. They have Peterson fighting for a spot. Now Lavoie's looking like he might be ready to go. And then, like we're going to see tonight, Maddie, we're going to see Janmark and Derek Ryan share center duties. Is that ideal? Probably not, but they're going to give it a shot against which should be a pretty solid Kraken lineup. And that might open the door to a winger like Lavoie getting to stick around a little bit longer and maybe even, turning it into a full season with the big club.
What else do you need to learn from this team tonight? Is there anything else you can learn from this team tonight in their final preseason game? Because like you just said, it maybe a stronger Seattle Kraken lineup. So, you don't get many opportunities in preseason where it's right. NHL versus NHL. This is going to be one of those. What are you focusing in on tonight for this game between the Oilers and the Kraken?
Well, we'll watch that battle for the fourth line spot. But I think the other thing, too, is just defense. How are they defending in their own zone as a five-man unit? That's going to be important. And I know they've been talking about the little wrinkles that they've implemented in all three zones. But to really zero in, to see how the back end handles things. And if, Bouchard and Nurse can have a strong game and not have too many hiccups in their own zone. And no Kulak as well. That's an interesting thing. He's been banged up the last little while. So we're going to see Broberg with Desharnais. How does that lesser experienced pairing handle things? And there's been I've seen some people complain about Vinny Desharnais, and it's kind of, you look at it and you go, well, they kind of turn on guys really quickly. And I think it's a louder minority that likes to point out things right away and find a guy and key in on. We've seen some people pointing out Broberg's deficiencies, but I actually think that both of those guys have had okay camps, and Broberg's made some nice plays offensively. Desharnais is not going to be a sexy offensive defenseman. He's not going to be fleet of foot. What he has to do is kill penalties well, kill cycles, and make decent first pass out of his own zone. Make the right decision, keep it simple, and I think he's okay. Be physical, and I think he's okay. So that pairing will be interesting to see how they handle some good forwards on the Seattle Kraken. And if they have a good night, I think that's a good sign. So, and I'm not discounting Ben Gleason either, but I think he's the guy heading to Bakersfield, and he's now the first call up. I think the fact that he's playing in this game with, Ekholm and Kulak being nicked up and no Niemelainen, I think he's surpassed Niemelainen on the pecking order, and nobody's denying that, especially when you bring it up to people in and around the team.
Well, and it also just looks like he's the placeholder for tonight with Ekholm.
Yeah.
Like if Ekholm were to play tonight, it'd be where Gleason is in that six-man pairing. Was that fair to look at it that way?
Yeah, or Kulak, obviously, too, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But I think
when those guys come back, how do you sort out the six? If you're going to go Nurse Bouchard as a pairing.
Yeah, well, I mean, ideally, I think it sounds like all indicators are we are going to see Ekholm and Broberg, and then we'll see Kulak and Ceci. But, again, from, my understanding, what keeps, the talk in and around the press box and around the team is you're just going to see Broberg and Desharnais and some kind of rotation there, depending on if they go 11-7 or if they go 12-6, and not to get too bent out of shape about a great training camp from Ben Gleason. What he has done again is moved up the pecking order on the depth chart in the organization, which is a good sign. And so he's been around. He's not a young defenseman. He's been a pro for a few years. He spent time in the National Hockey League. And it's just another one of those examples of you can't have too many good pros with NHL experience. And the Oilers went and found some guys that have shown well so far. And Gleason has been really good. He's been a pleasant surprise, and it's nice to see.
780-218-9999, Parish Jewelers inbox. Damon texting in, likes to know your thoughts. He'd like to see a Holloway, McLeod, Janmark line. Think all that speed together could be dangerous. Would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Holloway, McLeod, Janmark. That's interesting. Then you got the responsibility of Janmark's game generally, and then you've got two guys who can absolutely wheel. And I think McLeod would be the transporter on that line. And Holloway, I love the way Holloway has played this training camp and preseason. He could kind of do both. I mean, we know he has the capability of finishing. I expect him to have a much better year offensively than he did last year, where he put up 9 points, 3 and 6, and had some really tough lessons. But Holloway, if he can find a way to maintain the type of play he's brought to the preseason on a line with those two, I think would be pretty good. They're not a small line either. They're not overly physical. Holloway can throw the body. We saw that earlier in training camp and in the preseason. McLeod is more of the smooth, try to make the play, not really get into the muck type of guy, even though he's a big body. And then Janmark doesn't mind doing the hard work. So that line has some intrigue. I don't mind it. 3 left shots. You'd like to have a right shot in there somewhere. But, if we see that line pop up at some point this season, I've got time for it. So Damon, that's an interesting one. And those 3 guys each bring something to the table that plays to their strengths and might be able to create some cohesion. So that's one we might see at some point this year.
When you look at the opponent for tonight, Seattle Kraken, they had a good season last year. They played very well. How do you think were they going to be able to replicate that going into this season, or is that a one-off for them, you think? What are you looking at when it comes to the Kraken this year? Colin Ellerslie in the Nasty Chat doesn't believe the Kraken are going to make the playoffs and thinks Calgary will actually push them out. Where are you with the Kraken this year?
That's an interesting point. I actually don't mind that point of view too, because Calgary has a much better team on paper than they showed last year. And when they rolled through town a couple days ago, you really, just talking to people around the team, they're like, well, the Daryl Sutter factor really wore on the group, and he didn't really blend well with that group. And it was hard, and it was demanding, and it pissed a lot of guys off to the point where they had a year where they missed the postseason. So Seattle has to work for everything that they give and get. And Seattle surprised a lot of people last year. They have a lineup that you look at and you go, there's no real weaknesses. But outside of like Matty Beniers and Jared McCann, who had a really solid year, he hit 30 goals last year. They don't have a lot of offensive pop. They kind of do it by committee, and their goaltending managed to hold up. If you told me Philip Grubauer and Martin Jones would lead the Kraken on a monster winning streak in the heart of the season where they went on the road, what did they win, like 7 or 8 in a row on that long road trip? I would have been like, you're out of your mind. That's not going to happen. And it did happen. So now teams are aware of the Kraken. Now teams are going to bring their A game. Like, I know every team says that they take every game seriously, but there are off nights for teams. We've seen that many times. But I think the Kraken are on people's radar. They're not going to be taken lightly, and that's going to have an effect. And if their goaltending doesn't hold up and they can't get the offense that they need in crucial moments of games, then I do think that they could slip and fall out of the playoff picture. I think they're going to be feisty and tenacious. That's kind of what they're known for. But Calgary Flames, quite frankly, just have better players and more offensive upside. And they have a better goaltender in Jacob Markstrom. I like Dan Vladar as a backup as well. And if Markstrom can hold the fort, I could see Calgary pushing for a playoff spot. I think Calgary's a stronger team than the Vancouver Canucks. I think Calgary's going to be there with the LA Kings. I still believe the Kings overall as a team aren't as good, giving up what they did to the Winnipeg Jets to get Pierre-Luc Dubois. And what's the buy-in going to be like from Pierre-Luc Dubois? How does he amalgamate himself into the group? What is LA's goaltending going to be like? So I think it's Vegas and Edmonton, 1-2 at the top of the Pacific. Then I think we're going to have LA and Calgary there. And then, Seattle and maybe Vancouver pushing Seattle. But that scenario that Damon pointed out, I could see that coming to fruition.
Calgary is an interesting one because, like, think about, you go back to last year and how highly people touted them going into the season. People thought that Brad Treliving did an amazing job with the trade of Matthew Tkachuk, and after losing Johnny Gaudreau, bringing in Kadri, and it wasn't there last year. And it to me, though, it does seem a little easy to just look at the coach and go, it's just this one guy. But when you look at who the coach was and the style that he is, and I remember when he got hired, I didn't know if he'd be able to connect with the new age players. And it just seemed clear that, like, you look at Jonathan Huberdeau's points, like, he was not going to be able to maybe keep up the same points that he was doing in Florida. But how much he dropped off, how far he dropped off in points, that just doesn't seem like that could be sustainable. That's not who Jonathan Huberdeau is. There's somewhere in the middle of what he produced last year in Calgary and what he was doing in Florida for a number of years.
Yeah. Maddie, I mean, yeah, I think, Daryl Sutter ended up becoming the whipping boy, but deservedly so. And when you sour on it, or a team sours on you because you're so demanding, you're hard on them, you're a quote unquote old school type of coach. I just think those guys have a shelf life and they don't even last as long as they used to. I mean, what did he last? A year and a half, two seasons with them. They had a great season, his first full year with them. Again, we're coming back to them. And then last year, the wheels fell off. So, and that was like, I do think Brad Treliving did a decent job trying to salvage what he could when he had his two best players say they wanted to walk. And he had a banged up Sean Monahan that he had to move on from and try to rejuvenate what was a pretty solid club on paper. I just think that a lot of it is pointed at Daryl Sutter, and I think it is deservedly so. Now, could guys have bought in more or looked past that or used their dislike for their head coach or his methods as a motivator better? Yeah, probably. I'm not in that room. I don't know for sure, but there is a pattern with a coach like Sutter where,
well, look what he did with that.
It's hard. You get worn out.
Well, I can't remember the player's name, but there was that rookie who played, and the media just asked that, and just, hey, how did he do? And it was just, who?
Yeah.
Well, him, like,
whatever,
who is it? And he was just, like, the way he was acting, like, instead of just, talking about this rookie playing his first game, instead of praising or having an honest, like, he had to be that.
Yeah.
And that goes into the locker room, and that's going to rub some people the wrong way. Big Uke into the inbox. Calgary should be a better team, but nobody in that team is going to be like they were the season before they were there. They'll be a mid-pack team. If they figure out how to winning games, they'll probably be in the wild card spot or a third, which is what you were just talking about when it comes to the Calgary Flames. By the way, we haven't discussed last night yet. We just jumped right into everything.
Awesome.
How was your night at the Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge?
I had a great time. Honestly, I thought that was awesome. Great setup there.
Yeah.
Renee is unbelievably nice. Like, she is a sweetheart, honestly. And
she went 11 for 11 or something in college football picks last weekend or something.
Apparently, she's like a hardcore sports fan. Like, hardcore.
And not just a sports, but like a degen when it comes to the gambling of it.
Yeah.
So, like, winning Dusty's heart over right there. He heard the stories from Eric, but then he got to see it first person. She was getting praised a lot today on the morning show.
She's awesome. Like, such a great host. And I said I'm going to be coming in to see Eric on some cold nights in the meat of the season when the Oilers are out of town. And Eric's there doing a Thursday night, and it's not a sexy Thursday nighter. Like, I'll go hang out there. But the nasties that showed up, it was good to see a lot of people. Good to see
Yes.
Cash, who won the draw to be on the EST Hangout, which is awesome. And by the way, we're gonna Cash. It's not a secret. He just got past testicular cancer, so he was saying, Maddie, for future planning, to have him in next month as part of Men's Health Awareness Month. Because it's Movember and all that. That would be a good tie-in to have Cash, so that'll be good. Last night was awesome, and I'm disappointed my mom couldn't make it out. My dad, he's been working. They're in the middle of getting some stuff done at their old house as they get ready to move into their new house. So they've been working on it, and they couldn't make it out. But at least my brother made it out, and he's not mad at me anymore, which is great. And,
you guys seem to be getting along. You sat near each other.
Yeah.
You guys talked to different people a lot of the night, but you were by each other. That's good.
He's not mad. Yeah, he's very. He's tough to deal with.
Lucas
sometimes.
loves
He's
him
baby.
now, I think.
Well, he loves Lucas.
Okay, well, Lucas texted in the morning today to give Paulie a conch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he get one?
Oh yeah, the boys played it and gave him the conch and stuff too. So
wow.
there was a connection there. All the families coming together, like Lieutenant Eric and Dusty's mom. My mom had a chat with Lucas, like this long chat with Lucas.
Your parents.
Yeah, it was just, and then all the nasties that were there. Was Jesse with his jersey that we all signed.
Yep.
Trev got him give his first autograph.
Trev, yes, YouTube. Trev had a good time. HR Daddy and HR Mommy. That was my first time ever meeting them. They were super nice. Your parents are great to see them as always. So yeah, and Trev's brother and stepdad too. Frank and Tristan. So it was just a really good night, and I'm glad that people came out for it, and we had a good time.
So me and Eric had this idea when we were walking away yesterday, because we're like, oh geez, we have to come in early tomorrow, and we're gonna have a few more parties. What if we just cancel the Nielsen show the next day? When we have these parties, we go out, we cancel the morning show, and we all come in for the hangout. It gives us time to recover, and then we all just have a great time in the hangout. And then if we're canceling the morning show, we're getting lit up in that party.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're cool with it and Dusty's cool with it, and
we
Eric's
haven't
cool
brought
with
it fully up with. We started talking about just the idea of stats today. Edmonton Sports Talk stats, our own stats. Okay. So after Super Bowl on the Monday, we're off. I don't know if I'd go so far as we're all off, but we're maybe working on Edmonton Sports Talk stats.
I like that. I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys to handle the programming. Just tell me if we're on or off that day, and I'm good to go.
Actually, I just thought of a good thing for us to do, because we're wanting to do the watch parties with the Oilers.
Yep.
And they play that afternoon game for Thanksgiving Friday.
Yep.
That's a day we should do a watch party.
That's a good idea.
I'm going to have to mark that one down and remember that.
Mark it down.
But yes.
Yeah. Now we're thinking.
That's just these ideas get flowing when you're having this conversation. So a fun night yesterday at the Century Casino Sports Bar and Grill. Eric is there every Monday and Thursday for Monday and Thursday night football. And did you have the brisket, by the way?
Yeah, I did. It was awesome.
Wasn't it?
It was great. Yep.
Dusty did not, or Eric did not oversell that.
No, it was really good.
It was just at $9.99.
Great price.
You're not getting that anywhere else. It was just absolutely fantastic.
And not too filling, Maddie. Like just a good portion. I think the hoagie bun, it was nice and soft. I think 8-inch, about an 8-inch.
There.
So not like 6 inches, a little too small. 12 inches, that's like a full day's worth of food. That was like a perfect go-between, and good portion of meat, cheese, nice mix of veggies, and I thought it was fantastic. He did not oversell it. He was bang on about it. Eric is a very sincere guy, and he doesn't want to let anyone down when it comes to their meal choice.
He also knows his food. If Eric's giving you a food recommendation, you take it easily. Yeah. Surveyor Brett, text in 780-218-9999. Saw Tommy downtown today. Nice chat, and can confirm he's as handsome in person. He was late to practice, though. So, but I'm assuming I'm going to I want to get is it because you had this chat? Because then that's not fair.
No, because I talked to Surveyor Brett. Great to see him. The stuff going on outside our building by the one entranceway?
Yeah.
He told me what was going on. They're working on some power line stuff for the LRT. Now, I still have plenty of time to get to the rink in time for the skate. I forgot my phone in my place. So I had to run back and go upstairs, come back down, and then it was a couple minutes late. Whoops.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
I want to get to a number today. I'm not seeing it on Coolbet right now, but earlier today, Dusty had Pat Gregoire throw up a line on Oilers players, and one of them being Dylan Holloway. I'll have to take a look to see if I could find it again. But the points total for Dylan Holloway this season, I'm just throwing this at you. You've not heard this, I don't think, so sorry for putting you on the spot. But Dylan Holloway points this season, 23.5.
Take the over.
You think?
Absolutely. I think we're talking about a 30-point season for Holloway, 30 plus. If this continues the way he has played, this is 2 training camps in a row where he has been one of the best players, if not the best player for the team consistently in the preseason games. Now it has to continue in the regular season, but maybe after going through everything he did last year as a rookie, a tough way to have your first NHL season, quote unquote. I like the spunk and gusto that he shows, the attitude, the willingness to, dust yourself off and get back up and hop on that horse and go at it the same way with the same attitude as you did before, but, learning from your prior experiences and mistakes. Like, I think he has that. Like, oh, yeah, well, okay, I screwed up, but I'm going to show you, and I'm going to do it better. I'm going to do it harder, and I'm going to make it work. Like, I think he has that mindset naturally. So I think he has a stronger year. Now, he's not going to get power play time, really. We might see him on the PK a little bit. They have had him on the PK in preseason, but I think he can get to 25 to 30 points this season. Absolutely.
So 23.5, coolbet.com. If you go into NHL, click futures, click player points, and it is up. Dylan Holloway total points for this regular season. Dusty immediately jumped on it, but then he had a pause. There was a moment he was worried about whether because that just shows the line was pretty good, but he's worried that like all of a sudden he's going to be sent to the minors or something, and the line's going to be he's going to lose it. But you don't think that's going to come up at all, do you?
No, I don't think so. I think he's here to stay. I mean, why would you send him down? I did see some conversation about like the possibility of it, but he's been your best skater. I mean, listen, I know McDavid has been great, brilliant when he's been on the ice, but Holloway consistently has been probably their best player throughout training camp and preseason.
Well, I think we could take some of those guys and just put them aside like a McDavid and a Draisaitl because, one, we already know how great they are, and two, we also know they're not putting their entire game into the preseason.
No.
They know how to get through the preseason where they can get going for the regular season. How excited are you that preseason is over?
Very. It's a relief. Rashog and I were walking out of the rink. We were talking to some people in Fort Hall, and they're pumped up for the regular season. They're like, "Thank God preseason's over," and we're just like, we feel the same way. At that game the other night, Maddie, like in the press box, it was just like, "Ugh, are we done with this yet?" And the fact that this is it tonight, I think, gives the game a little bit more juice. And then now we can start looking ahead to Wednesday, and then we'll have the news of the final roster moves, and we'll be able to chew on that for a little bit. We have a nice long weekend coming up, so this build up and climax to the preseason and training camp, I feel like is a good one, and I'm glad we're here at this point. But it's been a good training camp. I mean, the storylines have not really been surprising. We've seen some nice things. It's been overall pleasant. It's been a enjoyable training camp. It's just been too many games and too long. That's all.
Well, especially when you're a team like the Oilers who are in this spot where there's just not a lot of stories that are really going to ever come up. And I'm sure this is a similar type thing in top markets that are, Carolina, if they have any sort of real talk of the Hurricanes or like any of those markets that, you're looking at potential Stanley Cup, contenders. There's just not a lot of spots. The questions have already been answered. So it's just get through this and ultimately get through it as healthy as you can and get the season going. When do you think we'll get the news of the final cuts? When do you think we'll see those? Is that something that's going to come down tomorrow, or do you think the Oilers are going to wait a few days before they make that announcement? For Oiler fans out there, when do you think they could expect something like that to come?
Tomorrow is an off day for the team, so they might announce the cuts in the morning and then start getting guys down to Bakersfield, and then you have the full group skating Sunday and Monday. And then Tuesday they'll practice and they're going to fly. So I could see them making their announcement tomorrow, giving those guys that are going to go down an opportunity to travel relatively easier, if you will, and then everybody can settle in with the main group for 3 days of practice. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it tomorrow.
Northside Lou has texted in asking, has anyone tweeted out or put out the lines for tonight? We did go through this earlier in the Oil Stream, but I do you have them available that we could throw out there a second time? Just for anyone who's just tuned into the Oil Stream over the last little bit, if you're looking what the Oilers are going to put out tonight against the Kraken as they will take to the ice for the last time in preseason. Tommy, what can they expect from the Oilers there?
All right, here's your projected lines for tonight's preseason conclusion. McDavid between Kane and Brown. Draisaitl centering Nugent Hopkins and Hyman. Lane Peterson between Warren Fogle and Raphael Lavoie. Matthias Janmark with Adam Murney and Derek Ryan. On defense, Nurse paired up with Bouchard. Gleason with CC. Broberg and Desharnais. In goal, Jack Campbell with Calvin Pickard backing him up. There's your lineup projected for tonight.
Does that surprise you that Skinner, or is it, I'm just reading something into absolutely nothing, that Pickard's the backup?
No, I just think, he's a guy that he got honorable mention on our 2023 Oil Stream rankings of importance. And listen, he's a veteran guy. If a goalie goes down, he's going to be here. He's been a starter for bad NHL teams in the past. And I think, it's one of those respect factor things, having Pickard around this long. Same for like Brad Malone, who, again, Jay Woodcroft mentioned that Malone is in the mix for that last spot, but ultimately he's going to be a Condor. So I think it's just an extra day of rest for Stuart Skinner. That's about it. And nothing too much to read into.
Well, there's a lot of going on sitting on a bench.
No.
It doesn't take that much work. You're resting on the bench to a degree.
But what if you have to play? May as well be
saying.
Pickard than Skinner, right?
Okay.
What if something happens?
Fair enough.
Yeah, no.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no.
What do you got coming up this weekend for Thanksgiving? Oh, you're on for Hello Hockey tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got Hello Hockey. Hey, thank you for bringing up Hello Hockey. Great scoop by Sean Bell on the Kevin Constantine thing, by the way. Bellsy was the first to put it out there.
Now officially suspended by the WHL, and he could quote unquote apply for reinstatement in the summer of 25 or something like that, but
which is ridiculous. But
that should never be accepted for his application. But
no. And I mean, that should be it for Kevin Constantine. But good scoop by Bellsy. He did go on with Guy Flaming on the Pipeline Show to discuss, if you want more details on that, friend of EST, the Pipeline Show with Guy. And
that'll come up at noon tomorrow. So anyone listening to Hello Hockey tomorrow, 10 o'clock, after you guys finish up, Pipeline Show will air right away, right after that, right here on Edmonton's, or right on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. People will be able to hear that conversation. Sorry.
Yes. No, all good. We do have Kyle Bukoskis tomorrow from Hockey Night in Canada. So Kyle will stop by for a bit. Dave Pagnotta, our Hello Hockey insider, to give us the scoop. I can't believe we're talking about expansion potentially to Atlanta still.
Well, is there enough talent for the NHL to sustain 34 teams?
I guess so. They think so.
Well, no, they think that there's a lot of money.
That is the driving factor. There's no denying that.
The NBA still is at 30. MLB is still at 30. The NFL is at 32, and the NHL thinks that they could go to 34.
Yeah, it's a bit aggressive, isn't it?
It's way too aggressive this soon.
Yeah. So, I mean, the overall ability and talent of hockey players now compared to 15, 20 years ago is much better. So, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be good enough to sustain 34 teams, but the leagues, they're not even hiding it anymore. So that's interesting. So we'll talk to Pagnotta about that. We'll go around the league too on any developments going on. And then we also have Tyrell Spitzer from Silent Ice,
Yes.
as well as Tim Fraggle from the Trail Smoke Eaters, because the BCHL continues to, blaze its own path and not be associated with Hockey Canada. And so that battle continues. And, we'll hear from a head coach in the league and why he thinks, it's a good idea or not a good idea for the BCHL to go off on its own. But it is the best junior A league in Canada. And so we'll talk to Tim Fraggle from the Trail Smoke Eaters. It's an interesting conversation. We've got an action-packed show tomorrow at 10. So we're looking forward to that as we head into the long weekend.
I know Spitz and Bell, they coached against each other recently. So one of them is going to be gloating a bit, I think, during that segment.
They do that. They're also good friends. And,
we had them on the Hangout a few weeks ago together, and it was it was fantastic having them. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of chirping going on during that one. Also, I think Bell and I are going to have a little bit, because I'll be in, showing YouTube Trev still. I think Bell and I will have a little bit of a beef going, because he was like you. Well, he was like you, wanting to get rid of the Rouge in the Canadian Football League, and then I just said Fins down to go after the Dolphins, because don't go after the Rouge. And he texted me during the Hangout right away, just going, ouch. So
that was a tough loss for them. That was a tough loss.
Well, don't come after the Rouge. That's even though it happened after, it's karma.
Get rid of it. It's dumb. Get rid of the Rouge. I still stand by that. But yeah, and then Matty, we're going an hour and a half tonight. Just an hour, right?
Hour.
Yeah, perfect. Gazer's going to be here in my satellite studios here, and then we're going to go off to the rink.
It's preseason, an hour. We've talked a lot of preseason over 2 weeks. I don't think we need to extend that conversation a little further. But all season, right here in Edmonton Sports Talk, and EdmontonSportsTalk.com, we will have the Oilers Oil Stream pre- and post-game show, a 90 minutes pregame show, and then we'll have the post-game show right after, getting you covered. Just quick, if it's Atlanta, where's number 34? Do you have to go to Quebec City at that point?
I think Quebec City is just being used as a red herring. The league just abuses them.
But at some point, you have to give them it.
No.
You don't think so?
No. If this is straight up business, Quebec City gives you the least amount of return, money-wise.
Could you not the NHL TV deal is going to come up soon? Could you not get a little more from that? If you have an 8th NHL franchise?
Man, I mean, Sportsnet's been hurting ever since they signed that monster deal. And TSN, Bell Media, I don't think that they're in a position to throw money around either, as we know.
Yeah, they're not exactly fully into the live sports these days. So that's one thing I know.
Yeah, we know that firsthand. So having said that, I think that Salt Lake and Houston would be ahead of Quebec City. And apparently Atlanta, in the right part of the city or suburb, is something that they really want to explore. Todd Nelson told me that it's actually a really good hockey city when he coached the minor league team there in Gwinnett Gladiators, I think they were. And he said the Thrashers, who he was an assistant coach with, would have worked if they were in the right suburb instead of downtown.
Fair enough. Yeah, I will say, based on that, by the end of this decade, then I could see Atlanta 33, either Salt Lake, Houston being 34, and the other city being the home to the Coyotes.
Yeah, that might be Houston.
Just seeing how that all plays out. I know they're still trying to build another rink in Arizona, but how many times have we heard that story type thing? And so that's 34.
We'll see
I
how
don't
it
like
goes.
34. It just doesn't.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Too much.
Get your money, I guess, if you're the owners. Tommy, this was fun doing the oil stream with you again today.
Good job, Matty.
Well, likewise to
Great
you.
work.
And we'll work together a little bit later tonight and tomorrow. But a big Oiler game tonight. Oil Stream pregame show, like we said, 6 o'clock live right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, as well as our YouTube channel, as Tommy and Gager will get you set for the Oilers' final preseason game against the Kraken later tonight. That will wrap up another full week of Edmonton Sports Talk live coverage, Monday through Friday at least, from 6 a till 1 p. Coming up next, a replay of the Nielsen Show. Me and Eric had a lot of fun really getting under the skin of Dusty earlier today, so you can hear how that all happened later, coming up right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. And then later tonight, we also have MCTV podcast, as well as the Elks Call. That's all to come along with, like I said, the pregame show with Tommy. And I didn't do this last time I hosted the Oil Stream, but I'll do it today. Tommy, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, smash that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Join us tonight for the Oil Stream pregame show. Myself and Joaquin Gage, like Maddie said, Gage are in for Cass. Cass in Mini taking care of some family stuff. He'll be back for next Saturday's game, so Gage will be in for the season opener. Have a fantastic